other interesting political news, you had the DeSantis war room highlighting Kim Reynolds' Iowa endorsement. Perhaps they simply share the same size heels and high heels. I mean, there's a lot of overlap when you get an endorsement like that. Perhaps they just double their wardrobe. Perhaps. I'm just saying it's a possibility, and some people might argue that's a benefit. Now, specifically, the DeSantis war room said, quote, Ron DeSantis has momentum in Iowa, whether the corporate media will admit it or not. And they have a whole poll or a thread on this, and they say, quote, DeSantis received the historic endorsement of Governor Kim Reynolds, Iowa, who just won re-election by nearly 19 points and is viewed favorably by 81% of Iowa Republicans. Reynolds is the first governor since 1996 to endorse the Republican primary? Really? Reynolds is the first governor since 1996 to endorse a Republican primary. What's been going on with Iowa since 1996? Really? That's kind of pathetic. One would guess it'd be not so infrequent. Unless their governor's been Democratic for so many decades? Nevertheless, they also highlight a poll where they say, the Iowa poll in August found that Reynolds remains the most popular Republican state, having 81% view her favorability. Let's see, her favorability ratings in that August poll outperformed the Republican 2024 field, including Trump, who has rated as favorable by 65% of likely Iowa caucus goers. So the DeSantis campaign put out that poll where they just said that, again, I'll reread this. Her favorability ratings in that August poll outperformed the Republican 2024 field, including Trump, who has rated as favorable as 65% of likely Iowa caucus goers. Now, I'm looking. They oddly enough didn't tell us, well, what's the current favorability rating for DeSantis in Iowa? Again, I'm not saying it's as bad as Chris Christie, 0 to 3%, but that's probably a good question to ask, right? But oddly enough, they didn't include that. I'll go back to their quote. They say, quote, Reynolds' endorsement isn't just symbolic. Reynolds is hitting the campaign trail with Ron DeSantis, introducing him to voters, doing interviews, attending fundraisers, and improminently featured in DeSantis' latest 20 TV ad. Now, that got 285 likes, which that's not great for social media. So 285 likes for that. And they have a whole thread where they talk about people who have other Iowans who had endorsement, including Bob Vanderplatz. And they claim that Vanderplatz is known as a kingmaker in the state after endorsing the winner of the Iowa caucus in 2008, 2012, and 2016. I think that's a lot more compelling than the previous note, although perhaps that's also just an indication he's good at predicting things. Don't get me wrong, he's also giving the endorsement. Now I'm scrolling down to see where are the comments for this. Let's see here. So they responded to their own comment. Oh yeah, they're doing a threads thing. Wow, so you have to scroll quite a bit to actually get to the comments. But nevertheless, we found the comments. Someone by the name of Spooky Hollows says, quote, historic endorsement, LMFAO, unquote. I got 0 likes. This is very unusual. Because usually the comments are getting likes. But the comments are much, much fewer, and there's not so many likes. Perhaps it's just because people don't want to read these threads, perhaps. Someone by the name of Bill Matee says, quote, that endorsement is going to cost her governorship. I'm here for it. That got 1 like. Perez says, quote, who? Unquote. No likes for that, but it did exist. Stephen Kiepert says, quote, 81%? I don't think so. Realistically, it's less than 50%. I know my fellow Iowans, not someone sitting in New York City. Oh, we got a real comment. Joe Marie, or when I say real, I mean a positive response to DeSantis. You have to sometimes use a magnifying glass, but you can find them. Joe Marie says, quote, so thankful for doing the right thing, unquote, getting 1 like. Let's see. Red Pill Stilskin says, quote, she got 200,000 fewer votes than Emperor Trump. Tom Hansen says, LOL, from the state that has no bearing on the national stage, unquote. Getting no likes, but 5 views. And I was going to say, Iowa's actually a swing state, so it does matter. Interesting. Let's see here. So very few comments. Not so many views either. About Yeah, so they had the original statement. That got 200,000 views. What are these? No one wants to retweet that. I just want to see. Well, a lot of people retweeted it. Got 338. Oh, not a lot, but 338 retweets. So again, they got this big endorsement, apparently, but yeah, interestingly enough, not a lot of people talking about it in the comment section. Now that being said, I can't help but wonder what's the average right now for DeSantis in the polls? Has he increased for once? Again, he started about 30 or 32%. Then he got like crash and burned down to 12. Let me see here. So according to 538.com or projects538.com rather, it looks like DeSantis. No, I underestimated him. DeSantis started at 34.3% January 9th, 2023 in the poll aggregator, and he's now down to 12.9%. He went up last week. He was 12.2%? 12.4%. So he's an up and coming, some might say. Maybe. It looks like Trump did drop from 60% to 59.8%. So a little bit of movements. Interestingly enough, Vivek went up by 0.1%, now at 5%. Nikki Haley at 10%. So it'll be interesting to see if this actually helps DeSantis out in the campaign. But I was going to say, based on the feedback of that tweet we just looked at, not a lot of people are really talking about it. Maybe a lot of people in Iowa not are on social media. I'm not sure why we're not seeing a lot of actual increases in the social media trend on that, but that was interesting to see that he did get the Iowa endorsement, or the governor's endorsement. But of course, the real question is, how is it going to help in the polls? I don't think it would hurt him necessarily. I don't see it being a downside by any metric, but be interesting to see. As I always say, time shall tell. Again, thank you everyone for taking the time to tune in today. We're trying to get to 4,000 subscribers by the end of December, so if you click that button, I greatly appreciate it. Also, if you could leave a comment, that's a great way to give me some feedback on how I could improve the channel or just improve my own speaking abilities or lack thereof. Any feedback is greatly appreciated because I do want to improve the quality of the show. Also, and lastly, don't forget to take time to tell your family, tell your friends, tell your coworkers, heck, tell your enemies, tell anyone and everyone. Just stay safe, fight the good fight.